Israel expanded its ground operations in Gaza this weekend as part of what its defense minister called a new stage in the war with Hamas. Israeli airstrikes bombarded Gaza overnight into today. The U.S. says it supports a humanitarian pause to allow in critical aid, but is not drawing any red lines for Israel. Natalie Brand spoke to John Kirby from the White House's National Security Council. She joins us now with more. Natalie, good to see you. So the U.S. supports a pause, they say, to allow in much-needed aid, but voted against having this pause codified at the UN. Tell us what all of this means and this balancing act that the Biden administration is trying to strike.
Hi, Lana. Good afternoon. And I should make clear that the White House has not said much since this ground activity in Gaza has expanded. But the administration has said that Israel has every right and responsibility to defend itself against Hamas and go after Hamas. And John Kirby told me that the U.S. is sharing tools and perspectives to help them do that. But at the same time, we know the administration, the U.S. is trying to help negotiate the release of hostages and also accelerate humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, which the White House has acknowledged is not happening fast enough. I also asked the National Security Council's John Kirby whether he's worried that an expansion of ground activity in Gaza could lead to a widening of the conflict in the region.
We have been worried about an escalation and widening of the conflict since the very early hours, which is why the president sent such strong signals to any other actor in the region, including Iran, that we don't want to see that. We have national security interests at play here, and we mean to protect and defend them. And that's also why he sent additional military capabilities, now including 2 carrier strike groups to the region.
We also know that the Pentagon put 2,000 troops on prepare to deploy orders. Our Pentagon team at CBS says that about 900 troops have been sent to the Middle East so far.
Yeah, I'm wondering, too, if you could tell us more about President Biden ramping up his responses to Arab concerns about Gaza. We know that the administration is trying to stop the war from escalating beyond the borders at this point, but has also engaged in targeted strikes in Syria. What can you tell us about this concern?
Well, the president has not spoken publicly since Wednesday, but earlier this week, he said that there has to be a vision for what comes next after this crisis. And he says in his view, that means a 2-state solution. He also called on Israel to do everything it can to minimize civilian casualties. And the Pentagon says that the defense secretary also underscored that message in a call with the Israeli defense minister. We know that the U.S. has sent a Marine general experienced in urban combat to advise Israelis. That's reporting from our David Martin. At the same time, as we've been talking about, the U.S. Is doing everything it can to prevent this conflict from widening and also send clear messages to actors in the region, such as Iran. You mentioned some targeted strikes in Syria. The Pentagon said that that was completely separate and distinct from what's going on between Israel and Hamas, but those strikes at 2 facilities in Syria linked to Iranian-backed militias were in response to a series of attacks against U.S. forces in the region, in Iraq and Syria, who were there or who are still there conducting operations related to ISIS. In those attacks, 20 since October 17th, around 21 U.S. service members suffered injuries. They're considered mild. They're now back on duty. But the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin calling these self-defense strikes aimed at sending a very clear message to Iran to stop these attacks.
Natalie, very quickly before we let you go, I hear it sounds like protests there outside of the White House. Is that regarding this issue?
It sounds like that is the case, and we know that they have been outside the White House in the past weeks, over the past 3 weeks, calling for a ceasefire. I can't exactly make out what they're saying today, but this has been a common occurrence, these demonstrations across the nation and right outside the White House.
All right, Natalie, thank you.